Last week, I invited us into a practice of giving thanks, a practice of finding God, looking for the good in every circumstance, even when it feels hidden. A practice of gratefulness as a way to nourish our own souls and the soul of our communal life. And so for our meditation today, I invite you to just let the words of that song, I am so grateful, I am so blessed, grateful for all that I have, grateful for all that I am, bring to your own heart mind those small moments that lead you to thanks. I'm grateful for the sound of Roger's gentle sounds of that guitar washing over us. Close your eyes if you're comfortable closing your eyes, or let your gaze just soften. Let your body feel supported in these moments of shared silence or shared quiet and stillness. And let that blessing wash over you and in you. Beginning to deepen your breath. Let your heart arise and awaken to be the blessing that you are. And when you're ready, if your eyes are closed, let them open and come back into this space, the space that you are in. And feel the blessings that we share. Thanks, Raj. So part of my talk last week, I shared some questions with you that I ask myself a lot. What does it matter to find a handful of reasons to be grateful in my own good moments when there's so much suffering happening all around me? Why does it matter if we find a way to be grateful for something, even in these dark, challenging, confusing times, or those dark, challenging, confusing times in our own life? How, in the midst of even great sorrow, have I found moments of gratitude? What is that all about? So I invited you to think about some of the small or big ways in your own life that gratefulness shows up, where you're aware of that. And unsurprisingly, because those of you who've listened to me now for 4 years know, I like to find books, and I'm very grateful when I find yet another one that inspires me. So into those questions that honestly cycle through my mind and my heart all the time these days. What does my small moment of gratitude matter in the scheme of everything that is happening around me, with my family, with my friends, in the bigger world? So my friend Diana Butler Bass, I feel like she's my friend for real, has a book that she started writing in 2016, published, I think, in 2019, right before the world shut down with that other scourge, COVID lockdown. But the title of it drew my eye. Grateful, the subversive practice of giving thanks. Those of you who know me know that I am kind of quietly subversive sometimes. So here is a condensed version, and Phil, go ahead and put that other slide on. A little bit of my teacher came out too, because you're gonna maybe need to see it and hear it. But here's a condensed version of the prologue where Diana writes, at the most basic level, gratitude involves two aspects of experience that function in two arenas of our lives. There they are. Emotions, those feelings that we get in response to gifts, and ethics, or the actions that we have in response to gifts, but that we also experience them in both the personal arena, the me, and in the public arena, the gifts we find in community. We respond to them in our we collective as well. So here's a little, again, that's the only slide I have. There's no quiz. There's no test. I will share the PDF with Roger later in the week. This is all going to be on the website. But here is how she talks about the emphasis, for example, in me and emotions. Okay, so my own personal experience with feelings in response to gifts has an emphasis on being attuned to the strong feelings. Those strong feelings we get in our inner dimension: awe, surprise, appreciation. Gratitude defined in terms of delight, joy, or surprise. How many of you have ever felt a moment of gratitude like that? Wells up about something inside of you. Maybe that's not your favorite way of experiencing gratefulness. Here's me and ethics, and Mom, I'm looking right at you. This is an emphasis on gratitude with the joyful responsibility and reciprocity. It's the writing of thank you notes. It's the favor that you return because you were so touched by someone's generosity to you. There's that experience of mutual, but I feel an ethic, a call to give back to you in some way when you have given something to me. And it's not out of duty. It can be out of duty, but in this sense, it's something that wells up naturally. We and emotions. I'm pretty sure this has a lot to do with why I cry almost every week here in community. It's that emphasis on gratitude experienced through family, through community, through cultural celebrations, even sometimes the singing of the songs that we share outside on a peace vigil night, those old 60s, which actually will be tonight. Our hearts well up in gratitude with a shared experience of being in community. We feel the connection of other hearts that are expressing and feeling that emotion. And then there's the we of ethics. And this emphasis is on gratitude as an essential foundation of civic life. We take pride in doing good. It's gratitude as social responsibility through our commitments to stewardship for the land, for each other, for those organizations that we volunteer in, that we donate to with our time, our talent, our resources. It's that sense of giving back in gratitude for what we've been given communally. So let's pause for a moment. It's a lot of information. Again, there's no quiz. Where in your own life have you felt that sense of joy and delight? In a small moment, not even in a big moment necessarily. How do you show your thankfulness when you've been given a gift, a hug, a smile, time with a friend? How do you share your thanks? How does this community, when we show up in our we, to sing our prayers, to have a cup of coffee together after the service, to show up for each other in the ways that we come to know each other in every activity here, how does that make you well up with appreciation? How and where then do we also answer the call to take part in doing good in our shared civic communal life? All coming from this familiar phrase that we used to say every week, and maybe it's time to bring it back. This is the day that love has made. Let us rejoice and be glad. What strikes me in this book is also how Diana writes about what gratitude isn't, or at least points out some gratitude pitfalls. She writes very frankly about the risk of inflicting even more pain when we expect ourselves or someone else to suddenly look to the good, find the positive, when harm has been done. She also writes frankly about the 40 years it took her of cultivating, as she calls it, her inner emotional garden, planting seeds of hope and faith and forgiveness. 40 years to come to a place of gratitude, of grace found in the healing from a moment of abuse when she was a young teenager. 40 years it took for that healing. So this is not a book of platitudes. It's a book that has challenged me to look at the emotion of gratitude, to find where that's easy to feel in my life and where it's been challenging, to look back and see some of those events and relationships that I really was not grateful for in the moment, for good reason, but to look back in hindsight and see where grace appeared, where grace was there beside me, holding me even in those hard times. So, how is this a subversive practice? How is being grateful a subversive practice? And why does any of this matter? Because it's deeper, as we know, than just an emotion. Chapter 4 begins, it's the We, Ethics, Community, and Politics, and I'm going to just remind everybody that politics, even though it has come to be a divisive word, that at its heart simply has to do with how we govern ourselves, how we live in community, how we figure out how we soften each other's edges and where we sharpen each other's edges. That's what the word really means at its heart. But this chapter opens with a quote by David Steindl-Rast, and if you get that daily gratefulness.org word, gratefulness of the day, it's a beautiful website with all kinds of resources on it. Brother David Steindl-Rast writes, "If you're grateful, you're not fearful. If you're grateful, you're not fearful. And if you're not fearful, you're not violent. If you're grateful, you act out of a sense of enough and not a sense of scarcity. And you're willing to share. If you are grateful, you are enjoying the differences between people. And you are respectful of everybody, and that changes the power pyramid under which we live. If you're grateful, you're not fearful." And that violence is external violence, certainly, but Ursula, I think about what you said at the beginning with your beginning that prayer, just how often we do violence to our own selves with that overcommitment, that fear that we're going to disappoint somebody, that we do violence by not letting ourselves rest. And hear that voice that I will follow you every day of my life is the voice inside of us. God knocking, trying to be heard. Love knocking, trying to be heard. Later in this chapter, Diana writes, "Gratitude is an emotion we experience as individuals, and we can practice gratitude as a personal ethic." Mom's thank you notes. Yet gratitude is inherently social. It always connects us as individuals to others. Communal gratitude looks and feels wonderful when festivity, play, and ecstasy draw us together. Just as personal gratefulness comprises both emotions and ethics, so does communal gratitude. The grateful feeling community can and should lead to a grateful society, a world transformed. Feeling grateful is not only play, but it can also be a form of politics, a way of living in community. Gratitude is joy, and gratitude is justice. She goes on to say, true gratitude, real gratefulness, the kind of transformative thanksgiving that makes all things new, cannot be quiet in the face of injustice. If we embrace the sort of gratefulness that changes our individual lives, it will revolutionize our political lives as well. We move from a personal ethic of gratefulness toward a public one. The me of gratitude, that was just God calling. The me of saying, yes, listen. The me of gratitude must extend to the we of gratitude as an ethic. A vision of community based on habits and practices of grace and gifts. A cultivating a wide field of vision and deepening our awareness of humility and blessing. Of setting tables and sharing food for all. Gratitude is not merely resilience. Gratitude is resistance too. It is time for all of us to join the resistance. Those are powerful words. Living in the ways that every religion, every wisdom tradition, every wise secular teaching draws us to is simple. But it's not easy. We know what we're called to. This call requires us to live in resistance to the false gods of power, greed, cruelty, but also to the false gods of comforting numbness, complacency, and relying on our human efforts, or shrugging and giving up in the face of our overwhelm at the injustice we see daily. Individually and communally, me and we are called to love one another as we have been loved by the source of all love. Feed the hungry. Welcome the stranger. Love your neighbor as yourself. We are called to set a bigger table, to truly warmly welcome all. We are called to set things right by seeing things right. We are called to give thanks for the very gift of life that brings us here. In this unrepeatable miracle of incarnation, this moment that needs you and you and you and you and me and we. But don't take my word for it. Do your own spiritual investigating. How are you called into that life of community, the ethics of gratefulness that asked you to show up in the face of injustice, in whatever ways you are called, because we are not all called to the same way. But here to close then is Psalm 95. Oh, come, let us sing to the Holy One. Let us make a joyful noise to the rock of our salvation, to the water of our salvation. Let us come into love's presence with thanksgiving. Let us make a joyful noise with songs of praise. And so it is. Amen.